There is something strange happening around Tyler Perry right now, and it is not the story most people think they know. For years, Perry looked almost untouchable. He built a movie empire, created a television machine, turned Madea into a cultural phenomenon, and became the kind of filmmaker who could walk away from Hollywood and still make Hollywood come looking for him. But now, behind the familiar headlines, the picture has become much more complicated. There are lawsuits he denies, projects facing very different reactions, questions about his creative formula, and a business empire that keeps expanding while the conversation around him becomes increasingly uncomfortable. And here is the part that makes this story so difficult to explain. Tyler Perry is not simply disappearing. In fact, some of his recent numbers are enormous. So if millions are still watching, why does it suddenly feel like something is changing? Tonight, we are going beyond the obvious headlines to examine the contradictions, the legal battles, the surprising Netflix developments, and the pressure points that could determine what happens to Tyler Perry next. And by the end, you may see his empire very differently. And the answer is stranger than the headline suggests. First, we need to understand why the current situation matters. Tyler Perry is not an ordinary actor whose latest movie happened to disappoint. He built a system around himself. He has written, directed, produced, acted, created television, developed talent, and operated through his own studio. His official biography describes an empire spanning feature films, stage plays, and television, with Tyler Perry Studios as a major production base. The story is no longer simply whether audiences like a Tyler Perry movie. The bigger question is whether the model that made him powerful can keep working while the industry, platforms, and public conversation around him are changing. The first pressure point is the most serious, and it needs to be handled carefully because these are allegations, not established facts. In June 2025, actor Derek Dixon sued Perry, alleging sexual assault and harassment connected to Perry's television productions, including The Oval and Ruthless. Dixon, who appeared in 85 episodes of The Oval, sought at least $260 million in damages. Perry's attorney denied the allegations and described the claims as fabricated. The lawsuit alleged that Dixon's professional relationship with Perry became entangled with unwanted sexual advances and fears about career consequences. The case remains contested. Then came another development that made the situation even harder to ignore. In December 2025, actor Mario Rodriguez, who appeared in Boo! A Madea Halloween, filed another lawsuit accusing Perry of sexual assault and seeking at least $77 million in damages. Rodriguez alleged unwanted advances over several years and also sued Lionsgate, claiming it ignored the alleged misconduct. Perry's attorney denied the allegations. It was about two separate lawsuits brought by actors who had worked within Perry's entertainment world. But a second case creates a different kind of pressure because audiences begin asking questions that a single controversy might not trigger. How did these relationships work? What happened behind the scenes? And how will the legal process affect the reputation of a filmmaker whose business is built around his personal name? But the Rodriguez case contains a detail that makes the story more complicated. The Associated Press reported that text messages showed Rodriguez remained in contact with Perry years after the period he said their interactions had ended. Some messages were initiated by Rodriguez and expressed gratitude, friendship, financial distress, and requests for help. Rodriguez's lawyer argued that continued contact and asking for assistance do not disprove abuse and can exist within complicated power dynamics. Perry's attorney rejected the allegations and called the lawsuit a money grab. Real legal disputes are rarely simple. The messages create competing interpretations, and only the legal process can determine what the evidence ultimately proves. That uncertainty turns gossip into a question about power, money, relationships, and evidence. Now here is where the Tyler Perry story takes a surprising turn. While these controversies were developing, Perry was not watching his audience disappear. Quite the opposite. His 2025 Netflix movie Straw became a massive streaming success. Netflix reported that the film drew 25.3 million views in its first 3 days and 48.9 million views during its second week, making it the biggest weekly audience for a Netflix movie that year at that point. If Tyler Perry was simply losing relevance, those numbers would be difficult to explain. The film connected with viewers strongly enough to become a major streaming event. The simplest version of this story does not hold up. His commercial reach remains powerful even as parts of the critical conversation around his work have become harsher. And that contradiction may be the real story. Perry can release something that dominates streaming charts while critics question the same creative habits that have followed him for years. His films often lean into emotional extremes, sudden reversals, moral lessons, family conflict, and characters pushed to breaking points. Those ingredients can be exactly what his audience wants. But critics may see the same ingredients as formulaic or melodramatic. He does not necessarily need critics to validate him because his audience has repeatedly shown up. Yet the more successful he becomes, the more scrutiny his creative choices receive. He is an established power whose decisions are judged against an industry he once challenged. The question is whether he can serve his audience while evolving enough to answer criticism. Then there is another project that tells a different story. Duplicity, released through Amazon Prime, did not generate the same cultural impact as Straw. The film follows a high-powered attorney investigating the shooting of her best friend's husband, and Perry wrote, directed, and produced it. The film received a dramatically colder critical response. Rotten Tomatoes currently lists it at 0% from 11 critics. That does not prove Perry is failing. It shows something more interesting. His brand is no longer automatically enough to guarantee that every project becomes an event. The audience may still be enormous, but each release must fight for attention in a crowded streaming market where viewers have endless alternatives. That is a very different environment. And then there is the Madea problem. Madea is arguably Perry's greatest commercial invention, but she may also represent his biggest creative trap. The character helped launch one of the most recognizable franchises associated with a single creator, and Perry continues to return to her. Netflix's Madea's Destination Wedding became the 13th Madea film and the 30th overall film in Perry's feature film career. But longevity creates a question Perry cannot escape forever. How many times can the same cultural engine be restarted before audiences ask for something different? There is built-in recognition and a tone viewers understand immediately. But what makes Madea safe can also make it harder for Perry to demonstrate how far he can go without her. That becomes even more interesting when you look at his attempt to move into different kinds of storytelling. The 6888 was a historical drama about the real World War II service of the 6,888 Central Postal Directory Battalion. It showed Perry reaching toward a more prestigious historical lane. Yet reviews were mixed, with critics praising the importance of the story while criticizing the execution and melodramatic tendencies. That raises a question about Perry's evolution. Is he trying to prove he can operate outside the formula that made him famous? And if he is, will his core audience follow him there? That philosophy helped him build an empire, but it creates tension between commercial loyalty and artistic reinvention. Now, just when the situation starts looking dangerous, Netflix delivers a twist that changes the picture. Beauty in Black was previously expected to end with its third season. Then, on July 23, 2026, Netflix announced a surprise renewal for Season 4 before Season 3 had even debuted. Perry said there was more story he wanted to explore, and Netflix agreed to keep the series alive. That is not what you would expect if the platform were quietly moving away from him. It suggests the opposite. Whatever criticisms surround Perry, Netflix still sees enough value in the franchise to expand its future. The pressure on Perry is not coming from a simple collapse in demand. His streaming relationships remain valuable. His shows remain capable of generating attention. The problem, if there is one, is that the business is becoming more complicated while expectations around him are getting higher. Beauty in Black also reveals something easy to miss. Perry's shows are not dependent on the traditional Hollywood model in the same way they once were. His content can move across platforms and audiences, and relationships with major distributors give him multiple places to put new projects. One disappointing release does not necessarily threaten the whole operation. But platforms measure success differently. Netflix cares about viewing behavior. Television networks care about ratings. Studios care about deals and profitability. Critics care about quality. Fans care about emotional connection. Perry has to satisfy several groups while maintaining the identity that made his work successful. That is a harder balancing act. Netflix has a multi-year first-look relationship with Perry, while BET has extended its partnership with him through 2028 and Amazon previously signed him to a 4-film deal. And his television audience provides another warning against the easy downfall narrative. Sisters returned for its 10th season in 2026 and the premiere drew more than 1 million viewers across its first 3 days, according to reporting tied to BET's announcement. A 10th season reaching that kind of audience is not evidence of a creator whose fan base has simply vanished. It is evidence of loyalty. Perry has built viewers who return to characters and worlds they already know. But loyalty can also become a challenge. The longer a franchise runs, the more audiences expect the creator to deliver the experience they originally loved. Changing too much can alienate them. Changing too little can make the work feel repetitive. Perry sits between them. There is another detail that rarely gets enough attention. Perry is not only producing entertainment, he is investing in the infrastructure behind it. Tyler Perry Studios has been moving into virtual production technology, including plans connected to Synapse virtual production and LED volume filmmaking. Virtual production can change how filmmakers build environments, control locations, and create visual worlds. Perry is not behaving like someone preparing to disappear. He is investing in the next generation of production. A creator can be under pressure publicly while becoming more sophisticated privately. The headlines may focus on controversy, but the business decisions can tell a different story. His studio has also supported programs designed to develop other filmmakers, including the Dream Collective, which selected filmmakers for a program involving funding, studio resources, and mentorship. That suggests Perry is thinking beyond individual movies. He is building an ecosystem around his production operation. The program was designed to cultivate emerging filmmakers, with 5 grand prize winners receiving production funding or resources of up to $30,000, along with access to crews, studio resources, and mentorship. The more infrastructure Perry builds, the less reasonable it becomes to describe his future as depending on one film, one franchise, or one controversy. The real question is whether that ecosystem can remain healthy as the person at its center faces increasing scrutiny. And this brings us to the biggest contradiction of all. Tyler Perry's recent career gives us evidence for both sides. On one side, there are legal allegations he strongly denies, critical debates about his creative formula, uneven reactions to individual projects, and questions about whether his traditional storytelling approach can keep feeling fresh. On the other side, there are tens of millions of Netflix views, a surprise Season 4 renewal for Beauty in Black, continuing television audiences, major distribution relationships, and investments in production technology. They point to something more complicated. A creator who remains commercially powerful while entering a period where reputation, reinvention, and risk matter more than ever. That may be why the next chapter could be more important than anything Perry has released recently. If the legal disputes continue, scrutiny will remain. If his streaming projects keep succeeding, the audience will prove that demand is still there. If critics continue attacking the formula, Perry will have to decide whether to ignore them or use the criticism as fuel for reinvention. And if his newer technology and filmmaker development investments work, he could emerge with an even larger footprint than before. But if controversies deepen while creative criticism grows louder and audiences eventually stop responding, the same empire that once looked unstoppable could become harder to manage. So, are things really not looking good for Tyler Perry? The honest answer is more unsettling than a simple yes. There are serious reasons for concern, especially because allegations involving people who worked within his productions have created legal and reputational pressure. But there is equally serious evidence that Perry remains one of the most resilient entertainment entrepreneurs working today. What we are watching is a battle between two versions of Tyler Perry: the established empire that still commands enormous audiences, and the increasingly scrutinized creator who may need to prove that his next era can be as powerful as his last. And that battle is far from over. If you found this story surprising, do not leave yet, because the most interesting part is what happens next. Tyler Perry has already shown that he can survive situations that would have ended many other careers. He turned early failures into a touring phenomenon and personal creative control into a massive production operation. Now he is facing a different test. The question is whether he can remain culturally relevant while the rules around him keep changing. And this is where you come in. After everything we have covered, I want to know what you think. Do you believe Tyler Perry is genuinely entering a difficult period, or do you think the numbers prove that critics are underestimating him? Is Madea still the secret weapon that keeps his empire alive, or has the character become a creative ceiling he eventually has to break through? What about the legal allegations? Because those cases are still contested, the responsible thing is to let the evidence and courts determine what actually happened rather than declaring anyone guilty from a YouTube video. What cannot be disputed is that Tyler Perry is entering one of the most fascinating chapters of his career. He has enormous audiences, powerful distribution relationships, a major studio, new technology investments, and a brand that millions of viewers recognize. Can he reinvent without losing the people who built his success? Can he maintain trust while serious allegations remain unresolved? Can he keep producing at extraordinary speed without making his work feel interchangeable? And can he prove that Tyler Perry is bigger than the formula that made Tyler Perry famous? And there is one reason this moment matters. Perry has spent decades proving that he can operate without asking permission from the gatekeepers. But independence comes with a price. When your name is attached to the business, studio, and decisions, every problem feels personal. That is why this chapter may reveal more about Perry's future than one movie. Because that is the real story. Not that Tyler Perry is finished. Not that his empire is collapsing tomorrow. And not that every criticism is automatically true. The real story is that the man who once seemed to have complete control over his own narrative is now entering a period where other forces are shaping the conversation too. Courts will examine allegations. Audiences will decide what they want to watch. Critics will decide what they praise or attack. Streaming platforms will decide what gets renewed. And Perry will have to respond to all of it. And remember, this channel is about looking past the obvious story. We will keep following the court developments, the streaming numbers, the projects, and the decisions that reveal where these careers are heading. Because sometimes the biggest story is not the headline itself. It is the contradiction underneath it, the detail that changes everything, and the moment when a familiar celebrity suddenly becomes impossible to understand in the old way. That is where the real story begins. If you want more deep dives into the stories behind Hollywood's biggest names, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. We are not here just to repeat the headline everyone has already seen. We are here to look underneath it, find the details people missed, and connect the pieces that make the story actually worth watching. So subscribe, because the next chapter of Tyler Perry's career could be even more revealing than the one we just covered. And if this video made you look at his empire differently, share it with someone who has followed Perry for years. Sometimes the most interesting celebrity story is not the person who disappeared. It is the person who is still standing when everyone starts wondering how long that can last.